Hello, hola, welcome back to this session, this channel. If you are a subscriber, I absolutely am grateful for you. Thank you for joining this ownership tribe. If you are just checking it out, hopefully you will stay around long enough and you will hear something that touches you or maybe someone else, or you can share with someone that you know. Either way, thank you for being here as well. So just want to get all the gratitude out of the way and get started with this message today. And this message was inspired just by a conversation, we were talking about change and people changing. And often I say one of my most famous quotes, so just know it came from Ownership Babe, first and foremost, was that things may change in your life. However, your faith must always remain the same. But here's the problem, and that quote sounds so great, and it's absolutely true. Things in your life may change, circumstances, things around you, things may not be going well. Sometimes it does not matter. As long as your faith stays the same, guess what? You can ride the course, you can weather the storm, you can get through it. But however, our conversation was about the change that people make and the new person that they've become. So often, we as people very judgmental. When we've known someone and we've known their past, often we want to see the change. But I'm just a true believer that change, that you really don't know, first and foremost, what's in people's heart, but you do know by their actions sometimes, if they have changed. However, I always say, I just remember one of the greatest book written ever talks about it. You have, horrible Saul. You have someone that persecuted people just for believing, but was transformed. And because of that transformation, was responsible for a good portion of the Bible. So when you hear stories like that, for a person like me, I'm like, wow, God is so amazing. God could use the least likely situation. See, a situation where someone was a murderer, a prosecutor, the least likely situation, like someone, let's say you're in a mountain of debt, and right now you're consumed by the debt you're in. You're living paycheck to paycheck. We know those statistics that are out there, right? And so, God can take that least likely situation, that situation that does not look as if you'll ever get to the other side, which we know financially is financial freedom, and we know spiritually is just being spiritually free. So God will take the least likely situation and transform it for the greater good. And I'll repeat that. God will take the least likely situation and transform it to the greater good. Now, for most of us, we want, and sometimes you can see that change, but think about it. If you were a person and you were once, and I know those statistics, I know, and I'm going to repeat them again, 60% of the people in America living paycheck to paycheck. High income earners, these are people making six figures, are living paycheck to paycheck, almost 50% of them. How could this be? We have right now, debt is out of control, especially student loan debt. Why? Education is so important. I think, man, how do you elevate? How do you change your life? Education. The government understands that, but guess what? People are in debt, going after education, something that's great. When you look at the saving side of it, most people, statistics say, do not have $500 that they can come up with for an emergency. So when you think about how much you've made versus how much you've saved, for most people right now, it's not a great number. So what happens when we're talking about change? See, your decision, you're always just one decision away from changing your day. You can change all of that, those statistics, but most importantly, your higher power, God, is in control and can help you to change that situation. But going back to my topic of seeing that change, sometimes you can see the change in people. You can really see when they've changed. You can see that now they're financially savvy. So if someone look at me at, versus pre-uni, university to now, yes, they can see the change. Mostly they can see it on the what? Probably the outer. Maybe, but guess what? If they just got to know me just a little, and this is why you can't really judge people, because maybe they can see it on the outer. But if they just talk with me and then they start to understand the level of freedom, the level of peace that I have, then they would truly understand the change. So sometimes you won't instantly see the change in people. So where are we going with this? As I said before, it's not our place to judge. It's not our place to judge people. I feel it's more our position to empower people, to encourage people, to push them hold them accountable. We want our brothers and sisters to win out here in this world, win at whatever God has placed in their heart to do. And the only way to do that is to embrace their change. So when we were having this conversation about change, I get it. Some people, they don't change. Some people, because the older you get, the more stuck in your ways you are. And I know that from parents, whoever, older people in my lives, they're not going to change. If they've been that way for 50, 60, 70 years, guess what? You're not going to change them. Guess what? I'm not here to change. I don't have that much power. Only God has that power to change people. However, we do have an opportunity to be the example of change. So how do you do that? Just some actionable steps. I want to close out. Number one, first define what change is for you. I just know for myself, the change that I was seeking, the change that I wanted in my life, I knew I wanted to make sure no one could put their thumb on me. I didn't want to be in a position where all month long I was thinking about whatever I had to pay, whatever was coming up. I wanted to make sure at the beginning or the end or the middle, whatever of each month, I just took care of everything. And guess what? The rest of the month, I was just relaxing. I was chilling, enjoying life. I wanted to make sure if there was a financial emergency, not just for my household, for someone else, and then if, I wanted to be able to help whoever that was, and be able to reach in my pockets and do it. See, what I wanted is to do the things I wanted to do in life, enjoy the things I want to do, which is what I'm doing in this very moment. But I did not want people to have their thumb on me. See, I did not want a job, a business, or anything. I wanted to wake up and truly decide the type of life I wanted to have. And so number one, that's what I painted for myself. That's not only what I wanted, but it's what I believed. As I've often said, most times when things do not manifest in your life, it's because you want it, you probably desire it, but you don't believe it. And these are the things that I truly believe. And I had a list of them. So once you've made that list, the next thing you got to do is you have to take some steps towards it. So I had to make sure one of those steps, if I wanted all those financial things to happen in my life, I had to become debt free. I had to get the shackles off of me, which was interest. I was locked by interest. Interest will enslave you. It will entrap you. So I had to make sure that all the debt was paid off. It was non-negotiable. It was non-negotiable, honestly. And see, when you do, I could not negotiate with interest. No, I'll pay interest on this because a car and not pay interest on a home. No, everything. From the car to the home, I had to pay everything off. This is why in 2022, September of 2022, almost 2 years later, I became debt-free, still debt-free, and operate off of a cash system. If I want to borrow money, I'm going to borrow it from myself. Why? Because I know that these banks out here, they will try to entrap you. And I did not want, what I said earlier, for anyone to have their thumb on me. So I had to take action. And I had to adhere to a budget. I had to now go back in that mode of learning. go back into that mode of when I was in uni and become consumed with understanding the financial side of it. And that's what I did. So whatever your goal, your change is, maybe it's just you want to change your attitude. Maybe you just want to be, hey, Tiffany, I hear you saying, you're always saying you have an attitude of gratitude and you want to change your attitude. Guess what? You're one decision away. All you got to do is just wake up, grab that gratitude journal. I don't go anywhere without pen and paper. Grab that gratitude journal or your phone, take notes and start saying, I am grateful. Tiffany, you might be asking, Tiffany, what should you say you're grateful for? You're alive, first and foremost. And if you're alive, you have an opportunity to change your life. So start writing what you're grateful for. Even if you don't even realize it, what'll start to happen is it will start to become you. You'll start to truly be grateful for these things. Start doing it, making a daily part of your routine, saying that you're grateful. So if that's the change that you want an attitude of gratitude, you want to be a positive force, a positive motivating force, guess what? You can do that. No one can stop you. And then lastly, so recap, number one, you got to decide. You have to make a decision. What I believe it was a leader, John Maxwell, I believe he said years ago, and he said a quote, and he was like, if he can always know the direction, and maybe I'm not paraphrasing it correctly, but basically what he meant is he could always know the direction of someone's life if he followed that person for one day. Meaning if he watched your routine daily, from one day, he could truly see if that matched the goals that were coming out of your mouth. And that's so true. And see, most people say they made a decision, but they never go to number two, which is taking the steps to make it happen. So number one, you got to decide. Number two, you got to take those steps. And number three, you have to have a laser focus and you cannot worry. You can't look to the left or the right and worry what people are thinking about you. Because as I opened up and as I said, me and a friend, we were talking about change and people changing. See, people are going to judge you. What I know is that if you're the greatest person walking this earth, they're going to judge you. They will judge you. Why? People are just judgmental. And that's okay. That's okay. Let that be their truth, not yours. If you're the worst person, guess what they're going to do? They're going to judge you as well. So when you think about it, if you're great or you're not great, they're going to judge you, then you might as well do what? Do you. You might as well walk in your truth. So if that truth is an attitude of gratitude, if that truth is to be the entrepreneur that changes the world, if that truth is to be, an ownership babe, totally financially free, then that's your truth. Walk in it. If your truth is, I'm going to make sure that my presence is known and I'm going to make sure that I shift the change. I change things that are happening in my community and I volunteer like crazy and I mentor like crazy and I give, whatever it is. Just walk in that truth and don't worry what people think about you. If I was so worried, I would not be doing this session. I would not even be sharing these sessions with you if I was worried. Why? Because people are going to say, why is she doing that? Most of them, half of them say, you're not financially free. Most of them say, you're not debt free. I can't believe that. And if I was sitting and listening to all that negativity and letting that consume me day in and day out, I would not be before you. I would not be living in my truth. So that third step is to do what? Block out the haters. And fill your heart with love. Fill it with love and walk in your purpose. So that is it when it comes to change. If you are on that journey to change, stay encouraged. Remember the quote that I said, change, things may change in your life, but never allow your faith to change. See, things may change, but your faith must always stay the same. So thank you as always for tuning in to this